republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My normal speech, if you have a cell phone, please either turn it on for me. Thank you. Approval of treasurer warrants for August 9th and August 16th.
I'll make a motion to approve the payroll warrants of August 9, 2019 and August 16, 2019.
Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor? Accounts payable warrants August 13th and August 20th, 2019.
I move that we accept the accounts payable warrants for August 13, 2019 and August 20th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of the minutes for August 6th, 2019. Do we have any corrections or? Yes, Ben?
The second page, under A, department heads, the second paragraph. Fourth line down, it says, it does not address uncollectibles at the end of the contract. I thought it was just the opposite of that. The issue was the contract says at the end they do have to pay.
Well, I was speaking to the attorney today, and basically she said there were only two selectmen involved in putting that contract together, which I believe you two gentlemen.
And the new I had nothing to do with that.
She claimed that
Who's she?
Sean, you were the first teacher. She looked at the old contract. Anyway.
I don't believe there was.
None of us did.
None of us were involved in that contract at all. No. Toby came before the selectmen and presented it to us. We had no input into it, I don't believe. I didn't.
No, we assigned them to do it, which is why it's a mess. But anyways, I think that line is incorrect. The issue is just the opposite of that.
The previous sentence says the contract says that uncollectibles will be paid by president if the contract is terminated early.
But I thought it said at the end of the contract, they still had to pay for all the collectibles. That's not what this says here.
We think the contract does say that.
I believe the contract does, I think it's on a yearly basis, they have to pay the uncollectibles.
That sentence is not, it is addressed.
Yeah, that is right. It says it. It says, Dresden shall still be responsible for any bills that will become uncollectible between the period July 1st and the last date that Dresden was a party to this agreement.
Thank you. But so that should be stricken.
All right. Anything else, Ben?
That's all.
Anybody else?
Just for the record, I just agreed and supported Ben.
You write that down, please. I'll move the minutes as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, we have no special presentations. We do have a committee appointment, Kim Deutsch, to the budget committee.
I'll move the appointment.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Welcome aboard, Kim.
We have no public hearings. The next one is public comment on non-agenda items. At each regular selectman meeting, there will be time devoted to any resident or taxpayer of the town of Wiscasset to address the selectmen regarding any item that is not on the agenda for that meeting. Is there any public comment? Yes, Steve.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Steve Christensen. If I could, I'd like to pass what I'm going to talk about. I get 5 minutes to do this and to give you guys each this, and so I can. Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead. You got 5 minutes.
I know, just like life, right? Just like life.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Of course you can.
Oh, yes, the vote.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Actually, what I have here is, what I've given you is this came out of the last week's Lincoln County News. It was on the front page. And as you can see, I've highlighted a few areas for you to look at. And what kind of got me when I was reading the article was, I get to a section in it, and this is about the boat that has been in the harbor for a year and a half now. The district attorney makes a statement, and it's in here, and you'll see it, and it says that the practicality here is that somebody has to remove this boat, and who should be paying restitution to that somebody? This is going to be the taxpayers of Wiscasset that are going to have to pay for the removal of this boat. This is the district attorney saying this. Now, if you read into that, that cost is anywhere between $80,000 and $200,000. Really, people? I mean, I'm not saying that we're going to do this. I just want to say that. Well, another thing that the district attorney said, the town could turn around and sue the man, or the Coast Guard may remove the boat, and then they would bill him accordingly because it's federal money that he'd have to pay back. I just want you to look at that and ponder it over. And what I just want to say is, I don't think that any taxpayer in this town wants to pay for somebody's boat that's sitting on the bottom that didn't have the insurance on the boat, and there's a bunch of other stuff. You know, you can read it. I'm just saying that I don't feel comfortable having to. Well, I guess I can say the district attorney saying that the taxpayers will be footing this bill potentially. That's all it is. It's just an FYI for you guys to look at, and I don't know. I don't have the answers. I don't know where to go from here, but I saw that. It kind of bothered me, and I'm almost out of minutes, so I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
Yes, Kim.
Kim Dolce. Along the same lines, when I read that article, the article said that the state of Maine does not require insurance on vessels. When I read the article, I said to myself, can a local municipality require insurance before allowing a vessel to moor in their harbor for after a certain period of time? So you could come in for the day, but if you were going to spend the night or a week or a month, it's something that we might want to look at to avoid a future situation like that.
Oh, I believe we did change it to anybody who is
We
mooring
do?
out here.
Okay,
Yes.
You have to have a proof of insurance.
okay, great,
They have proof of insurance.
great. I wasn't aware. Thank you.
There was also another article I read that came out that this Mr. Chavit, I think that's how it says his name, he is also continuing looking for ways to pay to remove this. I guess if they can get it, from what I read, if they can get it to the shore, then they can get it removed. Somebody will come in and take the boat away, but it's getting it to the shore. It had something in there about if it was 3 feet more this way, 3 feet more that way. It's a mess, and I agree with you, the taxpayers of Wiscasset should not be paying for this. I agree with you. Anyone else on the public comment side? No one? Oh, okay. Department head or committee chair, we'll just keep on rolling. Sponsored reports. Any comments from the board? Yes.
The fire department report,
There was none.
it's brief.
Yeah.
Because this is the second one that we've seen like that recently,
Yes.
so I hope we do something else.
I believe it is blank. If I'm not
Yes, blank.
mistaken.
But it's the second blank one
Yes,
in the recent period of time.
thank you. I noticed that myself. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. Wisconsin EMS Director Dennis Simmons regarding the Dresden contract.
Hello again.
Hello.
I think John already mentioned that he spoke with the attorney today about this. And I think, I'll let him, rather than me try to third-hand it, I'll let him.
Basically, she was looking at paragraph 5. The first sentence is okay, but the second sentence was a little bit ambiguous in her opinion. The total amount involved was about $6,900. And it's, I won't say it's quite a he said, she said, but the Dresden voters did approve the contract, which one interpretation would be that they are liable for the collectibles no matter what. The flip side is their selectmen, and I can't speak for them, may have misrepresented, unwittingly perhaps, what the contract term meant, which may be why.
I don't think that's what happened, according to the newspaper articles. Toby stood up and told them at their meeting they would not have to pay the collectibles.
No, I do know that.
So that's what the townspeople thought they were voting on when they voted on this contract. This contract was drawn up after the town meeting.
Sorry, after what?
After the town meeting, after their town meeting.
And of course, the other thing would be, they did sign a contract. It looks like they'd be liable for the uncollectibles, whether it be billed in the middle of the broken 3-year contract or whether at the end of the 3-year term they were expected to pay. And we've had a fair amount of discussion about uncollectibles are a fact of life. The question is, what percentage can we reasonably expect to get out of what we bill? And you know better than I on what we get when we send it out to collection.
So I hope to get some firm figures from the billing company today. They did not get back to me by 4 o'clock when they had one. So this was originally, when Toby presented this, as a 50 calls a year, very small. It's ended up being a lot bigger than that. The first year, you predicted 50 calls, it ended up being 83. Last year was 114, which is almost 17% of our total run volume. So dollar-wise, and again, these are just rough figures, but you're looking at roughly $49,000 in revenue that we're getting from this, minus the $6,900 that we didn't pay. So we are getting revenue out of this. My fear is if we enforce this as it's written, we'll get our 3 years, which $6,900 will say $7,000, we'll get $21,000, $22,000, $3,000 in 3 years. I don't think we'll ever get another contract with them again. So over 3 years, if we collect $90,000, that's just revenue coming out of my department. It's not going to change my operating expenses one bit, but I'm going to lose that revenue. So, which is the lesser of the two evils.
I think you talked about long-term versus short-term.
So I think that's what it is. I mean, if we enforce this, we get a short-term gain, but in the long term, we're going to lose another one.
Have you got any indications from them that they're interested in
I
going after it?
can't guarantee that. I talked with their town administrator a couple of weeks ago, but we didn't really get to that point. We've done a good job from there. There's no complaints coming from this. So I think we've done a good job for them. But I'm pretty sure that if we enforce this, it's not what they thought they were voting on. I don't think they would have.
Really, we don't have to enforce it until the end of the contract, is that correct?
That is correct. And John, can correct me, on the attorney, you know, if they agree to extend this could actually go out for 20 years and accumulate over a 20-year time period. But it does say, as long as they're a party to the contract. So
it'd be like an eternal contract, where you would for 2-3 years change the price, continuation of these two changes the way
You could change it. My feeling is, one of my fears, they didn't really want to be here in the first place.
Sorry, you know the president want to be here? I don't know, I haven't here long. But
I mean, I think that's an option. There's something to consider in the long run.
but I would.
Not to have a contract with Dresden at all, is that what you're saying?
the end of it.
Well,
But it might be well just that we don't have to deal with it for a while to see what happens.
I listened to the scanner, I concur that the service, Dresden is using our service in significant, even in the 6 months of the year. They've been more and more relying on our service, which I think is excellent, so.
I mean, the more we do, the more revenue we bring in.
Right.
That's how we get paid. We get paid to do ambulance calls.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, if we don't have to deal with this till the end of the contract, and I'm sure we'll have some indication from Dresden whether they're gonna renew it or not. Why bother with it right now? That's just my, just wait and see what.
We'd be more than happy to go sit down and talk with their, go over their departments meetings and more sense with them.
With this in place, it's certainly an incentive for them to keep the collectors down.
True. Kim, did you have something?
Yeah, I just want to comment that I think focusing long-term and on greater revenues is probably better for the town, especially in light of like this article in the newspaper where at the town meeting, Toby stood there as a representative of Wiscasset and said they wouldn't be responsible for those uncollectibles. I get what the contract says, that came later, but the town wasn't there when their select board signed the contract. It just seems to me if the long-term game is greater than the short-term game of the $7,000.
Yeah, I agree. At this point, let's just let the contract run out and see what Dresden does at that point. Because you're right, the revenue. Yes, Bernice?
We have a book that receivable at this point, so shall we remove it or leave it on our books still?
Can you remove it and
You have a line item?
I have a line item, a receivable from Dresden that we booked at the end of last fiscal year.
did you bill them?
Yes.
And that's why we're having this
Yes,
conversation?
correct.
That's right.
But there's nothing on there. There's nothing. It's zero, right?
No, it's this,
She gave them a $7,000
It's
bill.
$6,900.
when we invoiced, we put it on our charter account saying that we were going to receive it from the town of Dresden. And if we're truly not going to, it doesn't make sense to leave it there.
Well, we have to remove it, definitely.
So is that what I should do?
For now, wouldn't we want to keep track of the uncollectibles? I would think we would.
What do we do with our own
It's easy enough to
uncollectibles?
keep
We
track
write them
of
on?
this.
I'm sorry. We wrote off our own uncollectibles,
Yeah, we just did that at the last meeting.
and that was to the tune of like
106,000.
106,000. I'd say we just write it off. The 7,000. And play nice and try and make nice with Dresden and, you know, maybe if this works out well, they'll wanna, they're talking about getting out of their RSU. Like how great would it be if we could get their kids back in our school? Like there may be a lot of good reasons to do this, to partner up with our neighbor.
What's the board's pleasure? What do you want to do?
You know, we're working really hard at getting this EMS back, and it's working well. And I'd like to see us, you know, we lost Edgecombe, we lost Palmer at other times, and we might be able to do something.
What's the board's pleasure? Kathy?
When is this contract, the current contract, when is the end, what is the end date? I mean, it's still in existence.
June 30th. We have another whole year.
So it's next year.
Yes.
Under 10 months, right?
Yeah.
So we have a whole year left on the contract.
Pretty much, yes.
Yes, Bernice?
And you can keep track of what they owe us without it actually being on our books as a receivable,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So you want to take the line item out?
That's what I'm asking, is if the board wants me to take it out so that it doesn't show, none of us are in this room when a new person comes in, do they know that the town of Dresden owes us money or not on the books?
And if we were to leave it there, what would be the harm?
It's inflating our receivable.
So it looks like we have more money coming at us than maybe we really do.
Then I suggest we remove it. What's the board thought? I mean, at this point in time, it is a bill to Dresden. I mean, and that's the issue. And we're just kind of like putting it on the back burner until the end of the contract.
Can I just ask Bernice, were there no uncollectibles in the first year of the,
This is the
This is
first
the
year
first
I've
it
year.
was a
gotten.
1-2 year
This is the
contract?
first year. We haven't gotten through the whole of this year yet.
But they signed that in 17.
They did, July 1st, 2017 it started, so,
Right. So that was for the 17-18 fiscal year.
and so there were no, okay, the
We
7,000
just haven't-
from
we
that.
haven't cleaned
I
up
see
this
where
year.
you're,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Well, we're 2 years through the contract.
Right.
10 months.
It takes time to get everybody through the billings.
10 months
So
to
we
go.
just send them one bill at the end of the year. So we're close to being done with this year's. It's only August, July. By September, we should know whether what we're going to collect and what we're not. Towards the last.
So we've got 10 months to go on the contract.
Correct.
All right, looking ahead, I might be willing to let this go. But if we're gonna do another contract in 10 months, I would want to pay the collectibles going forward.
That could be part of the new contract. That would be part of the new
And
contract.
that's what kind of got me started on this anyways, was looking at this, that it's coming, that it is due, and I don't want to wait till the last minute to try and make put something.
Well, I would be interested what their response would be to that. It doesn't make sense that we make up other people's bad debt. I just don't understand. It's
Except
unfortunate.
that if we don't do that, right, say we didn't have this relationship at all, then we wouldn't have the 40 or 50,000, whatever number you mentioned in revenue. So sometimes you have to spend a little money to make money, and like that, the net gain seems to outweigh the loss.
I appreciate that, I'm just not as confident that it's going to go forward after 10 months. Whatever.
It's not going to change my expenses. If we drop Dresden, our expenses are going to be the same.
I'm not suggesting we drop it.
Right.
Okay, are we done with that subject? All right, thank you, Dennis. All right, unfinished business. Sewer abatement request. Muppy see, Muppy do, 698 Bath Road.
It's got quite a large, oh, I'm sorry, there, go
Good
ahead.
evening, Roland Whitcomb.
Yes, sir.
I guess, well, I put it for abatement back in January. We had a burst pipe. We have interior water usage with 3 bathrooms, as well as an underground pipe that goes to the course, which we use to operate a bubbler for the public, as well as misters when it gets on a really warm day. We close October 12th, roughly Columbus Day for the season. And we discovered in December 31st, when we got our bill for fourth quarter last year, we had 16,000 cubic feet of water used, all even though the inside plumbing had been turned off. I wrote to Mr. O'Connell back in January as soon as we got our bill, and he suggested that we would check in the spring once everything thawed, because we had the sewer department, the water department come in, we couldn't find a leak, but they said that the pipe was not leaking any longer anyway. Then in the spring, we had them pull the meter back in February, just to make sure that once the thaw came, that there would be no water usage, because there was no meter. In April, we had them reconnect the meter. We turned it on, we found a leak in the bubbler, the water fountain that's outdoors. Repaired that, and then monitored the water usage for the end of the first quarter. There was no usage at all. And then since that time, water usage has been normal for our operation, which is about 400 cubic feet in preseason and postseason, and then between 5,000 and 8,000 cubic feet per quarter when we're open. So I had paid the water portion of the bill back in January when we filed for the abatement, and now we would like to have the sewer portion abated to what would be an average of our use over 9 years. I provided the council with a list of our water usage over the last 9 years. The only the furnace that we had in that from normal was in 2017. There was a cold snap in a bathroom that was up against an exterior wall. There was a pipe burst in the building at that point. Donna Morris called me, who is the property owner, said that there was a leak that they saw, it was coming through the ceiling. We repaired that leak, or had it repaired, and the water usage at that time for that quarter was about 3,500 cubic feet. That's the only time in the 9 years that we've been there that there's been any kind of variance like that, of that magnitude, between 400 and 500 cubic feet, post-season, into this 16,000 cubic feet for this past one year.
How much is the abatement?
2008, is it this one, $2,802.72?
That covers his total bill.
Right, that's water.
And you
and
want
sewer.
that,
Well, we paid the water portion. What I'd like to have is the sewer portion abated to an average for our use. So third quarter ends,
$440?
I'm sorry?
$440, is that,
I'm not sure how you get to that.
is that?
400 cubic feet is, 400 or 500 cubic feet is typical.
Oh.
I don't think they have been supplied with your average. I don't put that.
I thought we had the bill though, it was in the online packet. but I'm not
The
seeing
bill's
it.
in there, but as you see it.
It says right here, $2,802.72.
Right, that's water and sewage. If you break down,
You see there's a separation on the bill, sewer and water.
sewer was $1,304.
So the abatement request is 1,304?
Excuse me?
Or what is the exact abatement request? Are you
Well, I
talking
would assume the
2,800?
selectmen would average. I mean, I just want an average. I'm not asking for the whole $1,300 to be abated. There is water and sewer usage for the first 2 weeks of October, which typically ends up being about 400 to 500 cubic feet. So whatever the rate is for 400 or 500 cubic feet, I'd be happy to pay.
I think it's fine, I just can't find the bill, and I swear I saw it in our online
No,
packet.
there is no bill.
Was it in the online packet? That's the abatement.
A little last week, said.
You guys have a copy of this last bill?
It's probably in the computer, but not there.
I don't have any bills. The only thing I have here is the abatement form for $2,802.72.
Yeah, I had supplied a copy or multiple copies when I,
And we have them, I'm pretty sure I read it today. It was,
I have my original here.
I don't think there's any reason not to grant the abatement. As you know, the sewer bill is based on how much water enters and goes through a particular meter. And as Mr. LaCombe was saying, the water went into the ground, so technically it did not go through the sewer. For some reason, I thought I had those numbers in the packet, but
It probably was in the last packet. What they asked for, this packet was minutes of the January meeting, so that's why we didn't do everything again.
If we made a motion for you to bill in,
do the calculation.
I'm really comfortable with that.
Might be, we just go back and look
I
at
think it was in
the,
the minutes of the
Yeah.
last.
look at the numbers. And I'm sorry, I thought they were in the package. But they've been put in front of the board before, and, I don't,
Can you get a motion?
I think Jeff was making a motion.
Yeah, I would make a motion that John bills Monkey See, Monkey Do $400 cubic feet, and then does the adjustment, whatever that difference is, the abatement.
Could you repeat that?
I don't know how to repeat it, so that's what I'm trying to come up with the right language. Since we don't have the bill.
We don't have the exact dollar amount, but we can move to approve the abatement in an amount that the town manager determines.
After,
Is-
Whatever, I don't know.
after the 400 cubic feet.
Yeah,
Right,
They would get a
whatever the rate would be for 400 cubic feet, I'd be happy to pay. I don't know what the rate is.
all right, so we're looking at the total number, less your 400 cubic feet that you've estimated is your water portion.
Right.
And the rest we would pay the sewer portion.
Right, so at this point, the building was for 16,000 cubic feet, so if we reduce that to 400, that would be.
reduce his bill to 400 cubic feet.
Sewer.
Correct.
Sewer bill.
Right.
Right.
Do I have a second?
One second.
Any more discussion from the board? All those in favor? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Next item of business, set date and approve the special town meeting warrant.
As you know, the budget committee, they met last week, and Mr. Ryan was there, so the committee members and the reporter. And basically, we wanted a recommendation for them to allow the overdraft from various departments to be formally approved by the voters, which requires a public hearing. And so this warrant is taking the next step. We wanted to set a date for the public hearing. And then just sign. So in a way, we're just looking
For a date.
for a date. And I think at one point you were talking about that Thursday, was it next Thursday?
August is 22nd, 27th.
Okay.
So what we discussed in the budget.
August 27th?
It's a,
Does that give us enough time?
it's a Tuesday.
Barely.
Barely?
Linda said barely.
If this is posted tomorrow,
It's August 29th, Thursday.
Thursday's the 29th, right?
Yeah, because the 28th is a Wednesday.
yes, 29, sorry.
August 29th?
And we can't just do it before our next meeting? And this seems like the whole thing is a formality.
It has to be posted for at least 7 days.
So we
Well, our
can-
next meeting's in 2 weeks, right?
That'd be the public hearing, and then.
Well, that's going to be determined because we may have to change the September meeting because Catherine's not.
Whenever the September meeting is, I just don't know why we need to have this
Wait,
public hearing on
I'm
it.
calling you,
Its own
when you
night.
say public hearing,
Um,
you mean town meeting?
The town meeting, we can't have a town meeting prior to a select board meeting.
For some reason, I thought there was going to be a meeting next Thursday.
That's what, when we discussed it with the budget committee, yes, on the 29th,
What meeting on the 29th?
this town meeting.
The town meeting. We don't have to have a public hearing.
No, it's an open town meeting.
It's an open town meeting.
So, okay, it's not September, then, so
It's August 29th.
that's what threw me when I saw September. August 29th.
At what time?
It says
6
6
p.m.
o'clock. 6 p.m.
Okay. Yes, Kim.
Can I ask a question about the article? It's just out of curiosity.
Please come up.
Sure. When we vote on budgets, every department is a separate line item. Is there a reason why these are not separate line items and we're handling it all in one article?
Answer that. The total amount is $11,000. And this is, it's listed out what the individual items are. And it didn't seem necessary for $11,000 to break them out. I mean, one of them was only $335.
So by that reasoning, some of the things that we vote for in the town meeting are small amounts as well. It's $200 to repair something, we handle those separately.
Thank you.
I would say, the way this is worded, though, if you wanted to separate one of those out, you could do.
Are we going with this warrant article?
I'm fine with it, but we could separate it. I'm just saying the way it's worded, if you wanted to subtract the senior citizen amount from the total and not pay that overdraft for some reason, you could do it.
What's the board's pleasure? Catherine?
I think we ought to just stick with what we have. It's not, as John said, it's not the national debt, we're told. We have to pay it.
It's paid.
We also
It
had the
says-
choice of not doing this, and just as a board saying, making a vote ourselves to take care of this. But I felt that perhaps the townspeople ought to be aware of how we're spending the tax dollars. So it was my motion to have a town meeting so that everybody had a chance to vote.
And at the open town meeting too, they can ask for clarifications, and we can, just exactly what Ben said, we could have a vote on each line at that particular time. This just opens up the town meeting.
Okay. Do we need a motion to go with August 29th?
Yes, I would move that we go August 29th, just to be here at the municipal building. And also move as the board recommend the article itself.
Yes. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? See if we're fixing. Okay. Art block food vendor licenses.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lucia Drobby and I coordinate the art block. And we're actually, at this moment, not having any food vendors in August, but I thought I would use the opportunity anyways to really try to clarify what you're asking and expectations for business licenses, since this hasn't come up before, and this is our third year of having food vendors. I think that you're asking me to get to have our food vendors complete temporary permits in advance so that you can vote on them. And I'm just wondering, for the sake of streamlining and using time well, if you might consider, when I looked through the regs, apparently a temporary business that operates for 15 days or fewer doesn't need a board vote, but can go to the code enforcement officer, who then, for 15 days or fewer, have the authority to approve or deny business licenses. And any vendors that we would have would not be operating more than 4 times, and usually 1, 2, or 3 times. The exception to this seems to be if the event is on locations that are owned and maintained by the town. And obviously, since we've got permission to close Middle Street, any food vendors we have are located on Middle Street on town land. And in this case, it is required that the select board vote on the business licenses. So I'm wondering if you would consider if I would propose to you at the beginning of every season the likelihood of having food vendors on which you would vote, and then for the individual events that I then take the business permits to the code enforcement officer, rather than coming here every single month.
Basically, the business license is just for the food vendors. Now, when we spoke, as you recollect, you said that they already had state business licenses, which I haven't seen, and you said they had insurance coverage, which I haven't seen. And the concern is primarily about the food. I didn't talk to you all about the other
Right.
crafts type people, so it's all about the food.
Right, yes, I understand
And,
that.
not knowing what vendors you were likely to see through the season, including the vendors that were probably originally proposed for this month. I doubt the board would be willing to give a blanket approval without some return to the board. That's my opinion. Yes.
I feel like, though, what she just said was that she would come at the beginning of the season with a list of proposed vendors, and then on a monthly basis, go to the code enforcement officer. So at the beginning of the season, like when would that, like May-ish, April,
Yeah,
May?
like when I came
You
here.
could come and say like,
in
oh,
June.
it's gonna be the oyster guy and scrummy afters and the pizza people and the
Yeah.
taco truck.
Yeah.
And we would be like, oh, these are all great, thank you. And then on a monthly basis, as she booked them, she could just go to Bruce. My concern is, does Bruce have enough time? I feel like his hands are really full. So maybe it could be Bruce and or the town manager.
Mhm.
Yeah, all I'd say is it's only going to be 4 days, no reason they couldn't work from that approved list. I don't see it as a big problem.
So I want to be straightforward about this. There, for instance, I'm working on a barbecue truck that has never been at the art walk before. And he's interested, but we're discussing whether this is the best season for him or whether to wait until the sidewalks are done. If he decides last minute, he's got the opening and wants to come to the art walk, then I have a very short turnaround time. So I can certainly list the food vendors who I think in the spring, but it's more the concept, that I need you to vote on the concept of using Middle Street for food vendors, and we certainly have a running list of food vendors, and a lot of my list, Lisa, if you don't mind me saying, a lot of my list came from Lisa's experience with food vendors. So I'm just looking at ways of streamlining the process. So in fact, the art walk's a week away, and it's possible, I think, the candy store finally confirmed, maybe a week and a half before. So it's not unusual for the turnaround time to be really quick. And so rather than saying no to the vendor, I'm trying to find a way to make it possible. So looking for the blanket approval for the phenomenon of the food trucks, and then a way for somebody to see the licenses and just make sure that the licenses and insurance are all in place.
In the streamlining, I think there is a requirement, I think that you mentioned, proof of insurance type
Right,
of
of
thing.
course.
And if you have a list of vendors,
Right.
whether they're actually going to be used or not,
Mhm.
you have a list,
Master list, yep.
why can't all of those vendors just send you copies at the beginning of the season or whenever you start your process, so that
It's already here. in place.
you've already got it and you can
Mhm.
get what you need with the, as John said, he hadn't seen any proof of anything in the past, but,
Mhm.
I mean, we have an obligation to,
Absolutely, yeah. And this came up, for those of you who were here 3 years ago, this came up at that conversation as well. Are these legitimate businesses? And in fact, of course, they all have their health permits and stuff like that.
well, I thank you for all your hard work as far as the art walk is
Thanks.
concerned. It's very, very enjoyable.
Thanks. So I'm going to give you a master list at the beginning of the season. You'll have copies of insurance, permits, health, and all of that. And for the rest of the year, for the rest of the season, August and September.
Yeah, just list off the dates.
Say again?
List off the dates.
Two dates.
The before.
Yeah. And so you want to see their health, for any vendors that we put in place, you want to see
On the
their
food.
insurance and stuff. I'm sorry, I do mean the food vendors.
And
Sure.
the other thing is, from a liability point of view,
Yeah.
as you say, it is a town street. What you may not know is that liability coverage was actually the contractor, because they own that space temporarily while they had everything up in heat.
Yeah.
Just a point of interest.
Yeah, totally get that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, tax anticipation note acceptance of award to Bond Savings Institute.
Yes.
I already signed it.
You signed the actual documentation, but in your packet, maybe Jackie has it, there's a letter that needs to be signed by all of the boards saying that you have accepted it.
You have, that looks, it's like this
But we need a motion, right?
Yes.
recommendation of Mass Savings Institute to administer the tax anticipation note.
Second.
All those in favor? That's the warrant. Whatever the motion is on the pink piece of paper, that's what it said. I made the motion, Kim second.
So basically, you approve this and it's not going to see what the update is or not. We'll have it in the office.
Okay, we'll be there in the morning, come in and sign. Okay. Okay, now, new business. Synergy Energy presentation, solar panel proposal at the airport.
We're gonna do a PowerPoint.
So we put in.
Yeah, we're gonna do yeah. Nice to meet you.
You gotta press them on. Well, I think they have it ready. But I don't know.
I'm sorry for the wait.
Oh, God, don't worry about it. No, yeah, that's good.
That's always important.
Looking forward to hearing your presentation. I was glad, you know, the area that you're, I don't know if it has anything to do with the committee that's already established. It just seems to me like it makes
That
more sense to put
infrastructure
up
is
solar
there,
farms,
yeah.
why the wires are there.
Right. That's all part of the
Maybe be
idea.
able to tap into that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great. CFP on board with it?
That would be part of the process.
They would apply.
Yeah, they'll tell you, but there's new legislation that the governor signed that's encouraging this.
Yeah, this is great.
Okay.
Yeah. And it- yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's good.
Next month, I'll see that.
Okay. Good evening, select board members. We're delighted to be here. We're Synergy Power, and we thank you for the opportunity for us to make this presentation. We think it's a great opportunity that's come to the state of Maine to encourage more solar power development, more clean energy production in the state, and we assess sites throughout the U.S. for their potential for solar to benefit the local economies, and we think the town of Wiscasset has a great site at the Wiscasset Airport. So with us today is Chad and I are lead developers for Synergy Power, and we also have an airport expert on our team.
that's working the slides. Steve Barrett is also with us. So he does consulting for a bunch of airports throughout the U.S. So we can honestly claim that we're one of the top solar developers at airports. We developed and built the largest solar airport project. That picture right there is Indianapolis Airport, and we were able to fit 25 megawatts there about 2 years ago. So we've been around for 12 years, at least 12 years. We're in 12 states. We've done, back from inception, over 350 megawatts, over 300 projects, and most of them are in the size range that we are proposing for the Wiscasset Airport. Just some of our capabilities, so we're not just a couple of folks going around trying to get locked up sites. We do have a very integrated, experienced team. Bonding capacity is sufficient to cover a much larger project than what we're contemplating at the Wiscasset Airport. Representative projects. We are based in our home base, back office is Southern California. In dark blue, you see most of our projects are throughout the Central Valley and Southern California area, but now we are in 12 different states, and we have active projects at probably at least 10 different airports throughout the U.S.
We also have 9 airport projects that we've developed in the state of Illinois. We are very active with build invention in the airport space for solar.
There's another picture of our largest airport project, Indianapolis Airport. If you fly in there, you can clearly see the project that we built there. Here's a project, 13 megawatts we built for MCE, which is the largest community choice aggregation distribution company in California. So they built this at a Chevron refinery, one of Chevron's largest refineries, and Chevron wanted to do a public-private type partnership, so they partnered up with MCE, the local distribution electric company in that Northern California Bay Area, and they were able to put up 13 megawatts. We hope to develop and get that project online, and that was done last year.
And Chevron has asked us to look at a number of other sites for them, so we're actually developing and rebuilding several other projects on Chevron land.
So with Maine, the state of Maine specifically, there were 2 bills that passed, and it sounds like this is obvious, but in a lot of jurisdictions, it just doesn't happen. At the political level, you can't get the votes, and it doesn't go through. But fortunately, with Maine, everyone at the legislative level was on board, and the governor was happy to sign it into law. So this just passed, I think, just the last couple months.
Yeah, end of June, I believe June 26th, the Governor Mills signed the bills 1494 and LD 1711 into the law. And we'll explain to you how quickly things are moving in a few minutes.
Yeah, but basically the program allows for up to 5 megawatts per site where you have the landowners or the lessees on the land developing the site, getting site control, developing the site, making sure it can get interconnected into the local utility grid. And then on the other hand, you have a bunch of power off-takers, which could be municipalities like the town of Wiscasset, colleges, universities, commercial businesses that buy the power. And you can move that power anywhere within the same utility jurisdiction, so in this case within CMP jurisdiction. So it allows for a lot of flexibility and a lot of savings all around, from both a revenue source for site owners or lessors of sites that host the solar project to power off-takers, the purchasers of the power, different municipalities, colleges, can actually get a very good electricity savings as a participant to buy the power that's being produced locally.
Next slide.
So here's a rough layout of basically, and look at this as like the full potential of what was potentially available at the airport. We would have to go through a 2-year lease option period to gain feasibility on the site, making sure all the engineering is going to work. But here we propose 2 5-megawatt projects that would enter into the recently passed program, and that would take up to about 45 acres at the airport. And then the larger potential is a 20-megawatt site that's not part of the current program, but with that additional scale, we have some flexibility to move that power even beyond the state of Maine, right? Anywhere within the Northeast ISO to sell that power. So because the airport has the land, we just show what the full potential is. So in total, it's 45 megawatts for the 2 5-megawatt sites, and 45 acres for the 2 5-megawatt sites, and 80 acres for the 20-megawatt site. But this would go through a lease option period that would give us the ability to do the engineering, make sure the sites are going to work for the program, and then we would enter into long-term lease arrangements of 20 plus years.
Part of the time period is we have to file interconnection studies with CMP, so that's going to take some time, and so that's why we also need the lease option period. In addition to that, we're going to have to get this project approved, from a land use perspective from the town as well. So that's why we need the lease option period in order to get all the approvals for the project.
And also the FAA will sign off.
Yes.
And that's what
we have
Steve will take the lead on. Yeah. So here are the basic lease option proposal terms that I basically just mentioned. The economics we propose, so a total of 120 acres, at roughly about for the 2 sites that were, I think it's not completely clear there, but the 2 sites would be about 22 acres each, and that would be for about $1,000 per acre per year for 21 years for the 2 5-megawatt smaller sites. And then for the 3rd larger site, because of the additional scale, $800 per acre per year for the 80 acres that would be required for a 20-megawatt site. And it would, if you go down to where it says lease option period term, so there's an option period for 2 years to give us time to do the interconnection feasibility, to do the land use, get the zoning approvals, get the FAA approval, to make sure the site can actually, the project can actually get constructed. And we pay a nominal, roughly about $1,000 for each of the 2 lease options. And then we would enter into a long-term lease agreement for the 21 plus years. If the site's proved viable, we enter it into the state program, and we start building the projects at the site. So those are the basic terms, and we welcome any questions, comments that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
CMP is possibly going to be turned into a consumer-owned utility within a year or 2. How would that change this thing?
Good question. You mean a consumer-owned, like a kind of like a community choice like we have in California?
Yes. Well, it would be more like what they have in Nebraska.
Oh, okay. Well, I think if the legislation is contemplating that right now, the program is only governing the investor-owned utilities. But I think these programs tend to have an opt-in requirement where if there are other types of utilities like municipal utilities, cooperatives, local community choice distribution companies, typically you have the right to participate into the program because you're still operating on the same grid. But that may require an additional step to opt into the overall state program.
Anyone else have a question?
Yes.
Yes, Ben?
The second one, basically, proposal. What does that mean? You propose to lease potential 120 acres? That's $120,000 you're going to be paying the town a year?
Well, we break it up a little bit, so for the first 45 acres, for the two small sites, it's $1,000 per acre, so that's 45,000 per year.
For 21 years.
For the 21 years, if those projects move forward. And then if the 20 megawatt project moves forward, that's $800 on the 80 acres, so that's about $64,000 for the 80 acres, which we would specify in an actual lease option agreement.
So other than leasing the land, the town doesn't have to make any investment in this?
No investments.
No whatsoever?
Zero investment.
It's just a revenue source, because you're offering up your buffer space, and that's why it's a very good fit for
Airports.
That was gonna be my next question there. Why an airport? There's gotta be 45 acres of land in the state of Maine, but I would think it would be better than an airport.
Well, there are all sorts of land. We like to work in that public-private sector realm and try to extract a win-win situation for the local economy. So we work with a lot of different cities, towns that own their own airports, because we know that airports have that buffer space that typically is not going to be used anyways. And that's perfect for solar, because the panels just kind of sit out there, and it's frankly less developable land, so it's also a little bit cheaper. So we can't go into like a residential zone or a commercial zone, because that value is so much higher, and solar is just not going to be competitive to lease that land. So that's why airports, if you look at it, it tends to be a pretty good fit, because you tend to have these buffer spaces where you can put solar.
Yeah, just to be clear, we don't just develop sites on airport land, we develop on all sorts of different types of properties. It's just that we just think it's a good fit for this particular airport and other airports that we're working on.
One of the things you mentioned was that there could be an option, instead of taking cash, that we have a reduction in our electricity bill.
We can do both.
You can do both.
Yeah, so on the one end, there's revenue generation for the town. On the other end, there's power savings.
Yeah.
Once we go, develop these sites. So, go ahead.
That's another set of diligence we do. So we would take the energy bills that you have, and we would make a recommendation, or we also are working with some energy advisors that are specific to Maine. And then we would assess it, and we'd say, hey, if you bought power from the solar site at the airport, here's what we could save you. So let's say you're paying on average here, it's like maybe 12 cents per kilowatt hour of power is what we're hearing is the average. Maybe for the solar power you're taking, it could go down to as low as 8 cents. So it's significant savings.
With no upfront,
With no upfront
investment.
cost.
On the environmental thing, I mean, solar sounds great, but you are putting all this equipment out there, and I'm assuming there are certain metals and such like in the panels themselves. So what kind of things can happen would damage that? I mean, we talked about, when we met, we talked about snow, and you explained everything just shuts down automatically until the snow melts off, and then it goes back operational. But if a plane were to crash into it, would be one thing.
Right.
What did that do? And I did ask.
Well, the one good thing about the solar modules is they're all fairly recyclable material. So the panels are made, the raw material is silicon. So there's nothing very toxic or anything. And then you have aluminum frame, and then you have glass. Those are the primary components of the solar module. So we don't use anything that would be toxic to the environment.
Now, what happens when the lease is over? What do we do with the old panels? Do we take them away?
Well, we would, usually after a long period of time, if they start to degrade a little bit, yeah, we would basically have them recycled, and we would frankly want to stay in partnership with the town and propose an extension to the lease. And just even update, basically renovate the system with newer, more efficient modules as they come out. But that's usually at least 12 to 15 years from when we start.
And the other thing, I'm sure most people in Wiscasset know, we've got the hookups into the grid from both Mason Station and from Maine Yankee, which makes it a more attractive proposition for you.
Yes, well, we think, to be totally honest, the site, and that's why we break up the lease options into two, is we think the site is very good for at least one of the 5 megawatts. we're gonna test it for 2.5 megawatts because you only have 12 kV lines running to the airport. So with the 20 megawatt site, most likely that line will have to get upgraded. So if CMP comes back to us and says, hey, that's a $3 million upgrade, or we can't get the easement to bring out higher voltage lines to the airport, then we would talk to you about, hey, maybe we can do another site or look at something else. But at least by having the two lease options, now we have flexibility, at least one will go forward.
Small. So, for example, a smaller site. And then we can talk about, I know there's other sites that the town owns as well. For example, right across from Main Yankee, the old, the very development site, which is about 250 acres or so. You know, so there's other options we can look at if the feasibility comes back from CMP where they say this is going to be cost prohibitive to bring the lines out for the larger site. So there's other options that we can put in front of you.
And we encourage you to call our references. If you call, you know, we've heard the folks at Indianapolis Airport, if you call them, other people have told us, hey, did you guys pay those guys to give you guys a reference? Because we ended up doing a very attractive project for that airport, and they are generating some of the savings that we talked about with you here. So we feel that we are the right expert partners to engage with, and we're happy to share references. Also, as a benchmark to how we calculate the lease, you know, there are some other projects going on. There's a large one going in at Sanford. There's a 50 megawatt, and you know they're getting roughly maybe about $720, and that's why we think at $800 to $1,000 we are offering a more attractive revenue source than some other sites you'll see out there. And then the last point I think Chad was going to make was, we know it's not easy to make quick decisions, but this program does have limited capacity. So time, unfortunately, is of the essence, because once we get approval, if we move forward at the site, we file very quickly the interconnection application, because that is a first to file type, basically, to get interconnected, you're first to file. So if people start to use up capacity, or the incentive program from the state itself for solar starts to get used up, and we end up being lower in line, and the capacity could get used up by the time our project is ready. So that's why there is some urgency. There's already, and we can show you
200 megawatts has already been
filed
with Central Maine Power. So on the interconnection side, so there's other, you know, there's other pieces of the puzzle that we have to put together. But one of the most important things is first to file, you know, with CMP for interconnection.
And I think, I'm just repeating some of what I heard. I mean, there's no aeronautica value to the site you're looking at. It's a wooded hillside.
Yes.
And so I don't think, Rick is nodding his head, I don't think there's any, it's not going to limit whatever the town might do to the airport. And if anything, it would be to extend the runway. And there's adequate hangar space, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
for future
all of the
purposes.
above. That's correct. And the other thing is, that's land that we can not develop. I mean, there's nothing else we can use that for. However, the FAA requires us to keep that land. And, you know, to the due diligence to make it work. And we won't get any noise complaints with solar. And it's a friendly environment for the wildlife as well. And in a way, it may even help us, because when we get all the birds and that sort of thing, probably keep them back, because they'll stay closer in the wooded areas.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Would you please stand?
Yeah, so Rick Burns, I'm the resident of Wiscasset. So my question is, you said you have a 2-year engineering period to determine whether you can actually do this. What are some of the engineering considerations that you know about on the site that might inhibit you from actually going forward? It really sounds quite attractive from what you said so far, but I mean, you could pull out within 2 years because you decided it's not feasible. So what are some of those things that might lead you to that decision?
Yeah, no, very, very good question. basically we give ourselves up to 2 years, but really the answer, we're gonna know within a year, right? And we would tell you, and Rick's gonna be very much informed as we go along where we are with the different engineering feasibility studies. The most critical one is what we've been sort of emphasizing, the interconnection. So is CMP gonna say, no, no capacity, you can't build there? Or are they gonna say, there is capacity, but we can only give you up to 10 megawatts, we'll let you do your 2 small projects, but not the big one, unless we extend higher voltage lines out there, which we may not get the easement because you gotta go through some residence, right? It's all that stuff starts to come up, but at a minimum, we think the site is very good for at least 1 to 2 of the 5 megawatt programs. And we would know that, frankly, within a year. But 2 years is the outside date.
I'm a Grandboy, I'm a resident, I actually live in that area, and would you be removing trees in that area? What would happen to the?
There's some clearing that we might have to do, but only on the airport designated area, right? I think we would basically tie into the 12 kV line that goes right up to the airport corner on that. What was that?
It's,
Yeah, if you look at the site map.
the road up here. Use Ferry Road, right?
The airport.
No, yeah, that's the airport.
Yeah.
But the road that's going, what is it called? Old Ferry Road?
Old Ferry Road.
Yeah. That tying point is right there.
Yeah, right
And then we
there.
just send the electrons on the same line, so we would do nothing to change the outside of the airport. It would still have the same line piece.
Well, to do this type of project, do we have to get any go-ahead from FAA to do that?
That's part of the feasibility period, yeah.
Okay.
They'll take up to maybe about, also similar to interconnection, up to maybe a year, a 1 year process.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the biggest aeronautical issue that they're concerned about is glare coming from the solar panels.
Mhm.
And so we've kind of already preliminary look at this issue, but we would ultimately file an application with the FAA for lease approval of the lease. FAA wants to make sure that the town is protecting the airport as a business, so they have a oversight there, as well as protecting aeronautical uses. So we would go through all that, but initially we see all that as being fine, just a process we have to go through.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, Catherine?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, my name's Ken Moden, resident of Wiscasset, also was on the airport committee for about 32 years. I can't imagine what would be better there than that, because I remember for 32 years trying to get all the brush trimmed, trees kept back. These are gonna take care of all that at no cost to the town, and the town will get the money back in. And it's not gonna be an eyesore to anybody in that area where it's at. I really can't imagine a much better thing to go on than that. And everybody always says they don't want to expand the airport. Well, that'll make it so you're not going to expand that side.
Right.
So that'll make a lot of.
And that's a lot of the airport folks we talk to in the different states, they like it for the.
I think that would be a great thing to do there. It would really help the town as far as having to keep that side cleared down, because no matter what, we're gonna have to keep clearing it for the FAA. If the FAA, obviously the FAA's got to approve it, which I
Yeah.
can't imagine they wouldn't.
They
That was just
actually,
a comment.
they actually like solar. The FAA produces a guide on putting solar at airports because they know that there's a pretty good compatibility.
Yeah, Steve's one of the co-authors of that guide.
Well, we thank you for your presentation. If it's all right with the board, I'd like to put this on the next agenda for us to discuss and make some type of a decision. I'm sorry, Frank. I didn't see you.
Hi, my name is Frank Barnago. I'm a summer resident. I just looked up the company on the web. Tell me about your financing. What's the guarantee that if we enter into a contract with you, that what's your financing?
Well, our finance, we partner with a lot of companies. We even partner with some of the big Wall Street firms, like Goldman Sachs has financed our projects, and we could follow up with the necessary diligence to get you comfortable, but pretty much every site that we've gotten to go ahead engineering feasibility wise, we've never had a problem with financing, and we've done quite a few of these. right? But in total, in our history, over 300 projects have been built.
And most solar development companies, because we actually also do work on the back end where we engineer and build the systems out. We work with local contractors in the area. They don't have $75 million bonding capacity. So that also speaks to our financial wherewithal. It's not easy to get $75 million bonding capacity. So, but yeah, we definitely follow up on that.
Okay, Gordon, do we want to discuss this in the next meeting? I'd appreciate some more information if we could get
Sure.
financial information, your company,
Sure.
maybe even a copy of your presentation.
Yes.
To be able to look at and have the possibility to discuss it and get back to you on it.
Okay.
If
That
that's
sounds
okay.
great. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next meeting will probably be September 10th, I think. Or do you want to be here for that, Catherine?
That means we would just skip the first meeting after Labor Day, and then we're going to okay, I just,
That's on the agenda.
it is.
Yes, September meetings, number 6.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, our next order of business is bid openings for the 2019 tree cutting and clearance bid. This is Bart Flanagan Tree Service out of Brunswick, Maine.
This is for the 13 trees.
Pretty good. As listed, I think I gave you. So
Okay, to remove the sugar maple on Lincoln Street, $600. The sugar maple at Washington and Summer Street, $900. 3 oak trees and 2 pine trees on Flood Avenue, $3,800, for a total cost of $5,300. DART, Flanagan Tree Service. This is Chesterfield Associates from Westport Island. Removing 1 sugar maple on Lincoln, $1,960. 1 sugar maple tree at Washington and Summer Streets, $2,400. The 3 oak trees and 2 pine trees on Flood Avenue, $8,600, for a total of $12,960. That's Mr. James Allen. This is Long Creek Tree Service out of Westport Island. Removing 1 sugar maple tree at Lincoln Street, $1,600. 1 sugar maple tree at Washington and Summer Street, $1,900. The 3 oak trees and 2 pine trees on Flood Avenue, $7,900, for a total of $11,400.
What was the, John, what was the cost of the first bid?
First one was 5,300.
This is something that is like insurance?
No, very nice.
They don't check it, right? I mean, it's,
I've never heard of them. Seems like you're right.
you know what I mean?
I do, but,
Yeah.
Such a range of difference in the.
Well, that's,
And this gentleman has sent us a copy of his liability insurance. This is Mr. Hawks, M. Jared Hawks, Pittsburgh, Maine. One maple sugar tree on 11 Lincoln Street, $1,000. Cost of one sugar maple tree located on the corner of Washington and Summer Street, $1,000. The cost of 3 oak trees and 2 pine trees located on Flood Avenue, $9,000. For the total cost of $11,000. And he provided us with a copy of his liability insurance. That's it. Yes, Kim?
I make a motion to authorize the town manager and public works director to review the bids and award the 2019 tree cutting and clearing bids to the lowest qualified bidder.
I said qualified.
Yeah. This one, okay.
That's the operative
That's-
word.
Yes.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Tax acquired property bids. Yes. Northeastern Housing Services. This is for the house, map R05-051-83 at 39 Bunker Lane. Is that one good to go?
That one is pending activity, so we're not accepting bids on that tonight.
We're not accepting bids on this one tonight. And what was the reasoning?
There's a pending agreement with the current owner.
Pending agreement with the current owner? Okay, so this will have to go back to person. This is for map R01 lot 036.
That one has been paid by the current owner.
Okay. That check will go back to that person. This is the last one. This is the one right there. This one is located 970 Gardner Road. Is
That one is still,
That was still pending? Okay. Is that there? Wait a minute. Okay. The one at Gardner Road, the bid is $2,500. There's also one at 151 Fuller Pit Road. That one, I believe, we're not taking.
correct, that one has been cleared up by the owner.
Okay. So the only one we have is a 970 Gardner Road for $2,500. Do you want to accept the bid?
Just for informational purposes, is $3,240.72 due as of today on that property.
Well, we knew we weren't going to get, we knew we weren't.
That's correct,
But at least go to get it back on the tax rolls.
correct.
Are we talking real estate here?
Yes. It's a mobile home.
Correct, that's occupied by a tenant.
Is it a mobile home and a mobile home park?
It is.
Okay, that's not real estate.
It's taxed as real estate, but
I meant land, right?
there's no land, correct.
But that's personal property, is that not it?
No, it's still billed as real estate.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? 5-0. Okay, so we are accepting the 970 Gardner Road bid of $2,500. That's this one here.
And just, Bernice and I were talking about it, and since these are all bank checks, the standard is that we run them through our account and we get a town check immediately to be successful in. That's fair. Just so-
This is the valid one, this one is not. Okay. Now, is there anything else, Bernice, that we need to
No,
discuss?
the only thing that I will add to that is of all of the land installment contracts that we've set up, at the first of the year, we had 138,531 outstanding. As of today, there's 50,390. So we've collected 64% of those. Their deadline is Monday.
That's good.
That's another 2,500.
We do. Does that include the 86,000?
Yes.
Don't spoil it, okay. All right, the next item is the September meetings. Catherine's going to be gone, I think, from the, we're going to miss the 3rd and the 10th. is that-
I'm leaving the 3rd and back on Sunday the 15th.
Okay.
So
So,
we get a meeting scheduled on the 10th. That's all right.
shall we do the 10th and 24th, or you want to do the 10th and the 17th? 10 and 17? Okay.
Why aren't we having one on the 3rd?
Catherine's not going to be here.
Oh, I thought she was going to be gone from the 3rd to the 15th, so she won't be here for the 10th.
She won't be for the second one either. Unless the board wants to meet on the 3rd, I mean, that's your discretion.
Well, no, we're usually first and 3rd Tuesday, right?
Right.
The only issue with putting it on the 10th is that then we don't get to go to school board, and I feel like that's important, and we always do that.
I think the 3rd and the 17th works.
Just the original.
Original?
Right.
Okay. We'll stick with the original dates. You don't,
Because if we moved it to the 10th, she couldn't come to that one anyway, so what's the point in moving it to the 10th?
Well, my only thought was, the second is Labor Day and holiday, but I can be here on the 3rd.
I mean, the 3rd's not a holiday.
The day before is Labor Day.
Go back to school on the 3rd. Is town office open on the 3rd? Is the town office open on the 3rd?
Yes.
I mean, I just don't understand, like, if she's not gonna be here on the 10th anyway, then why wouldn't we?
it's up to you guys what you want to do.
Like, she'll miss it the 3rd or the 10th, so let's just.
Leave
keep it
it the way
the
it
10th.
was.
All right, the 3rd and the 10th.
I know.
3rd and the 17th.
Yeah.
Make a note, I agree with Kim.
I'll
My
No, one
goodness
up.
gracious.
Somebody raise a flag.
I said, move on.
Okay. Sewer abatement request from Heidi and Daniel Grover. Oh, I'm sorry, set tax commitment date. September 17th. Can we be ready by the 17th?
To commit taxes,
Tax commitment.
that's Ellery's doing, I don't have a clue.
I think he'd be okay with that. I was talking to him, I said maybe we'd be pushing it back a week for both meetings, so it's,
We originally talked the 3rd, way back, and then there was talk about the meeting moving to the 10th.
I can check with him in the morning.
Yeah, I don't know where he is on,
If we do it the 17th, when would the tax bills go up?
up to the end of
September. That gives them 1 month to pay the tax.
Yeah, he's almost ready, I think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he can be ready on the 3rd, I don't know.
Shoot for the 17th, anyways.
shoot for the 17th instead of the 3rd.
Yes, it's usually towards the end of the month in September. We do.
Been committed the last 2 years on the day after Labor Day. I checked.
I'd like to shoot for the 3rd. We can get enough to give
Okay.
people 6 weeks notice to pay their taxes. I think that's a little bit helpful. Okay.
And if Ellery can't have it, then we'll do the 2nd.
Yeah. All right, now can I go to the supervisor?
If you don't mind.
Okay. Heidi and Daniel Grover, for $120.
Where do you come up with that?
It's on the front.
Right on the front. Yes, it is beyond the 30 days. It's beyond the 30 days.
I was gonna say, that is my only issue with it. We have denied others because of that.
I think it would be helpful if the board just said, don't bring it to the board at all, they missed the deadline. Because generally speaking, you say missed the deadline, missed the deadline. So I'm agreeing with you.
And I agree with you, don't bring it before us.
Okay, well, no, just one clarification.
All right, so what's the board's discretion?
Well, when we have a policy, it has to be 30 days.
So, motion,
Is that a motion to deny? So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? That's it. And if they come in and they're beyond the 30 days, they'll be invited for the
correct. We just, it was so close to this, they did.
Well, I guess I'm reading this wrong, because it says past due 250, that would make it at least 3 months old. Right? Yes, and then it has the regular bill, and below it says past due. Those go out once every 3 months.
Have you answered the question then?
They do go every 3 months, yeah. Some of them go out every month, they ask me to, but yes, they do go every 3 months.
All right, so that was 5-0. All right, municipal quitclaim deeds. Dennis Gothier, map R04 lot 011-C.
This is one of the 64% that's paid.
I make a motion to grant quitclaim deed.
Second.
All those in favor? And we have one more, if I'm not mistaken.
We do have one more that is not on the agenda, but the larger taxpayer that paid, they need to get their deed signed as soon as possible to finish their real estate transaction, so it should be in there. Raymond Franzen Jr.
Yeah.
If the board would also motion to sign that.
But we don't have it in our packet.
Right.
No, they just paid yesterday.
Okay.
I'll move we sign a quitclaim deed for Reagan Franson.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, 5-0. Thank you very much. What is that? Okay, bill of sale for Bradley and Daniel Churchill, mobile home located at 31 Easy Street, and Gage Wallstrom, mobile home located at 31 Easy Street.
The reason why they're both 31 Easy Street is because one is from Boulder Lane when it was assessed originally to the Churchills, and then the next year the owner was for Wallstrom. And the current owner is Azil, who actually paid the taxes, one of the ones that we were accepting bids on that got sold. Or paid the taxes off, I should say.
And there's no tax liens on either one of the.
This is to, they are paid in full, and this is to clear the tax liens.
Can I have a motion?
I'll move we approve the bill of sales as presented.
Second?
All those in favor?
Yeah, for two of them.
Yes. Okay, monthly financials, department year-to-date expense report, and H.M. Hastings statement. Any questions, any comments regarding the statement? None? Okay, we'll go on. Lincoln County Budget Committee appointment.
As you know, the Lincoln County Budget Advisory Committee is made up of 9 selectmen and 1 state representative. And so first thing they ask is that the municipal officers from District 1, which is Lupe, Harbor, from Southport, Westport, and Wiscasset, show up on September 19th, courthouse, 6 p.m., and then they elect budget committee members for the agencies. And on the back is the schedule, excuse me, the whole budget process. So it starts September 19th, is what they call the caucus, so all 3 districts meet separately. And then September 26th, budget, with a summary is given to the advisory committee. And then the full budget books are going to be always September 26th. And generally, 3-4 meetings takes care of it. Mr. Rhymes has participated in the Jolly event, and so has Kathy.
Do you have it?
No.
I thought you had.
So I just encourage you please to go to the first meeting. I take it.
That's where you get the problems.
Is that when you
If you
get
don't
thrown out
go,
twisted? Yep.
if you don't go, please. So anyway, that's just a notification.
Okay. All right, so now we have the town manager's report.
Mike has gone. I think I told the board that there was an FAA facilities inspection 2 weeks ago. I got a nice note, which I didn't include here, from the man who visited prior to getting the whole report. Very pleased with it. Properly operated, well maintained. So that's very good. Thank you. Very helpful fellow, in fact. When it came to talk about the solar panels, I got a few tips from him. So item number 2 is it's a RFQ, it's a request for qualifications regarding engineering planning, et cetera, for the wastewater treatment plant. Some of it relates to, some of it relates to sea level rise, some of it relates to the consent decree, basically is to get all this stuff in place and position us for additional grants. Some of what we would spend on these studies would be grant eligible themselves. But in the meantime, Rick Gay, Chuck Appleby, and I went through in more detail what we stuff here. And so all the request would be to get people who are interested in getting into business to give us the qualification first. First step would be to upgrade the existing climate adaptation plan. And so we can meet the requirements of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. And then going forward, get a comprehensive facilities plan for the wastewater treatment plant and all pump stations. Again, that's to keep the DEP on our side. And then we have to look at the sewer system evaluation study. Rick is working on the whole collection process. We have something like 18 miles of collection lines, which is a lot for a town this size. And then we have to put together a fiscal sustainability plan for the entire system, so it'll qualify for different grants. And one of the things in our favor, in a way, when it comes to looking for grants, is our per capita household income is pretty low, so we do qualify for higher levels of reimbursement. So fingers crossed if those what do we say, agreements are continued until the time when we're ready, we could be looking at 75% in some cases forgiveness of request for engineering qualifications. And this is to the design firm, and we spell out what needs to be done. So with your permission, since I do RFQ, see what comes back.
Do you need a motion for that?
I would like to, I'd like to formalize more formal, make a more formal approach to all the budgets done, including the RFPs, and bid process. So yes, please.
I'll move we authorize the RFP request for engineering planning at the wastewater treatment plant.
It's RFQ, application. It's a type.
Well, I'll roughly,
I'll second that.
Yes.
Don't we have to vote to suspend the rules in order to make a motion for something that's not on the agenda?
You talking about this particular thing?
Or anything. Like, this has come up before. We've done it inconsistently. It says in those, the orders of our little rule book, our policy manual thing, we just accepted 2 meetings ago that that's what we would do. So, I mean, do we do that? Do we need to, or do we not?
This is on.
Well, I agree with what you're saying, but
on the
isn't
agenda.
that on, right, isn't that what the thing?
I thought the motion had to be printed off.
No, it is not.
Okay.
No.
Those are guidelines.
These are guidelines, and to be honest with you, when I started becoming chairman, I requested that the motion be put on the agenda, just so that it makes it a lot clearer for the selectmen to make a motion, know exactly how to word it.
So I just thought.
It doesn't have to be on.
I thought if it was like an action item, it needed
No.
to be identified. Okay.
No.
Fine. I just need to understand.
What is the motion? To authorize an RFP?
The RFQ.
And I'll second that, Jackie.
Authorizing RFP, that's all.
So at this point, it's just request, we still have to like open bids and
Oh,
accept or
yeah.
reject.
What we do is we look at what they have for qualifications, which jobs they work on, which is most in line with what the town requires. And then we will have requests some.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see the price tag. That's what I-
Before we vote on it, Catherine and I went down to look over the wastewater treatment. Have the rest of the board members gone down? If you haven't, I suggest you do. It's a very interesting to sit down and talk to him regarding some of the things that need to be done.
We, 3 or 4 years ago, we.
I know, but I think you need
It's
to go and talk to him.
I took my
there's a new
class
sheriff in town.
Yeah.
years ago, but
Yeah,
not
and
this
it's,
guy. The kids.
what
thought it was
his
great.
vision is and the things that he's working on. Catherine and I found it very interesting. We were down there for maybe an hour and a half. And it's very interesting. And where he sees the treatment plant going from here. So I encourage you to do it. I'm not going to order you, I'd encourage you to do it.
And the only thing was that early afternoon is the most convenient time for that. They've got all the testing stuff done in the morning. They have some flexibility.
Anytime after 1 o'clock,
Anytime.
just make the arrangements.
And we went about 1:30, I think, in the afternoon. But
That's impressive.
again, it'd be worth it before you start looking at some of the equipment that he wants to purchase, stuff like that. You'll know why he needs it. Okay, all those in favor? That's it. Paving the winter sand bidding.
Well, no, it's just, if you recollect, we had all the numbers, say it, which was selected tonight. On the paving bid, corporate construction, was awarded the bid from $37,525. All this is in your minutes of the last meeting. And we only had one bid on the winter sand. That was, as you know, American Health of $6 a cubic yard or $14.75 per cubic yard delivered. So that's just putting it in the record. That's what we awarded. That's all.
Was there a reason why we didn't go with Acre?
We looked into the specific materials, composition and so on, and that's where we found significant difference.
No, I wasn't, I just was.
No.
Yep.
Need signatures. That's all I have.
Any other board business?
No, I was gonna speak to the executive session, but, you know, we'll go.
I just had one thing, over the weekend, I was at a public event and I heard from, I guess like 3 different people who read the article in the paper about the Amtrak train. And they were kind of sore that Wiscasset didn't have a representative on that train. And I just wanted to pass that along. Well, it was, I think there were, I would have gone, I couldn't, I was taking my kids to Limestone, and I saw the town manager report from last meeting, you'd mentioned it to us, because I was like, oh, I don't know anything about that, but I guess I did, because it's in the minutes. But anyway, moving forward, for things like this, maybe if none of us are available, so we could see if, you know, so like someone in planning, not that we have planning, but like the Lincoln County planner girl, woman, or Mary Ellen, or Friends of the Village, or somebody could represent us, just so that we are.
I made some calls, I was told it was happening, and then I was told there's an invitation, and I called some people, and I got busy, let it go.
Yeah, well, it's been a busy week.
And I've already heard criticism, but it also came with the local nice bread.
Oh, I don't have any bread
I'm not upset.
with
I got
me.
some.
I did bake bread this morning, but
You didn't bring us any?
I'm sorry.
Okay, anything else? Any other board business? Okay, let's make a motion to go into.
That's what I was,
All right, go ahead.
if the board wants to go into executive session, fine, but for myself, I reviewed it, and I'm more than willing to make a recommendation we deny it.
I could explain the background.
That's fine.
Petitioner came along and wanted to work something out, some overdue taxes, and with nothing to go on, this particular person was going to be out of state for the next 6 months. So I said, well, if you can't pay your taxes, you may be short of money, hence why don't you fill out a poverty abatement request? When we got the numbers, didn't qualify even close. So I would agree with Mr. Ryan that this should be denied routinely, and we have reached a payment already.
I wish I made that kind of money.
No, I was quite surprised.
I moved that we deny the property tax abatement.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, I haven't
I was
read
gonna
this
say, I don't
yet.
usually open it.
This was
open
not
it to
emailed, and I picked up the
executive
packet right before the meeting.
Right, right, no, I usually, we don't discuss it until we go into executive session, so that's, I didn't look at it.
If you just look at the income figures,
Just look
3
at the
years
income,
worth.
there might be no amendments in it.
It would have been an easy one to
Yeah.
decide, but I just was letting the board know that I usually don't open up the confidential stuff until we're behind closed doors, so.
It's a change.
So then what happens, we say no, and then what happens?
He's made arrangements to pay his taxes. From what I understand.
So we could just turn these in.
I give mine back to
Yeah,
John.
we wouldn't have.
So then, the next step, then they would make a, I'm sorry,
They've got a payment plan in place.
okay, they have a deal with it. All right.
The other thing we found out is they hadn't signed the homestead exemption, which means a lot of this overdue.
If he had filled out the
Unpaid
homestead
tax,
way back in the beginning.
should have been assessed wrong if they filled out the homestead exemption.
So they have done an agreement, or they're going to do an
Going
agreement?
forward, they have a homestead exemption that reduce their taxes substantially, but they will pay the tax. A lot of people don't.
So they
buy-
signed the thing,
Oh, yeah.
the same one that everyone else did, with the 6 months and the official?
Yeah, this is 6 months.
Okay, I'm not gonna say.
You know what?
First.
Okay, all those in favor of denying this abatement?
Like I said, do you mind if we have an executive session?
I don't care, I mean, Ben was the one who said he didn't, if I don't need one, I wouldn't do it.
If you want, we can go into one. I thought it would take you down, but it was just an outrageous request.
His income alone, just it's almost, it's a no-brainer.
Look at his income.
Yeah, but it just, anyways, I hadn't opened it until right at that particular second, and that's all. It's out of order for us. If we have an executive session put on our thing, and it's a confidential package, we usually don't talk about it until we go into executive session, and then, you know, so it's.
Then make a motion.
I'm not voting. There was 3 people that voted to deny it, and so I'm just letting you know that I'm not voting on it because I didn't.
You're abstaining?
Correct.
You know, I'm going to abstain too, only because I haven't read it yet.
So sorry. I didn't.
Like, even if I just look at the income, maybe there's something else in here, why would they even ask it?
How to explain that when they first started, it sounded like they didn't have any ability to pay, and without any information, we were up against the time constraint. I said, well, just in case, file for poverty abatement, because I don't want to find out that we missed the chance when we got the information.
That's it. It's discussed out here. That's all.
One thing,
I know. I'm just.
one thing I would like to suggest, and maybe we need to do again, because we're finding out that so many people do not have homestead exemption, and if they would only do the homestead exemption, it would make their lives a lot easier.
Molly and I went through and Molly listed off every person in Wiscasset that had a Wiscasset address that did not have a homestead exemption and sent them one.
They did send them one, okay.
We didn't get a lot of them back, but we have sent one to them.
So what can you do? Is it possible, I don't know, maybe we're beating our head against the wall. Maybe send them again with the tax bills. I don't know. You know, I feel bad because some people wouldn't have such a big tax commitment if they would do the homestead exemption.
Can I tell you that I did mine for the first time about 6 months ago? I mean, I even used to do people's taxes. I don't know. I've never owned a home before. I just didn't really think that I never qualified for anything. So I just didn't think that it was for me. I thought I had to have a cow or something, homestead.
It's just a thought.
Any of the people that have been delinquent that we've worked with, we've sent them homestead exemptions. Any recently, like I said, Molly went through and went before April 1st, when the deadline was. She went through everybody's taxes. If they had a Wiscasset address and didn't have a homestead, they got an application.
Okay.
And so, John, you're saying that these people, you talk to them and they're gonna make a plan and pay this.
Yeah, they have a
We're not
plan,
gonna put those kids out.
we've got the homestead exemption, which means that going forward, they'll be assessed less and less, to the point where pretty small.
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All those in favor? We're done. We're out of here.
Nope, that's okay. It's okay.
They could do these meetings, Oh, well, no, I didn't know.
Because my husband and I are the ones that alerted the first company that I think like about the bid. And, she's for us. A bunch of them that were real close to our house, so, you know.
There you
we
go.
were worried
There you go.
about
That
trees
sounds
destroying
great.
our house. Because and, I guess, you know, you have to look into things like,
We look at
Can I
the tree